Oh. Hi and welcome, everyone. I'm Kate Bays. I am joined with a very special set of people today, the Kondriches. I'm very excited to have you with me, Kurt and Chloe. This is just fantastic, and I'm just noticing we can add your name on the bottom there, Chloe. I wanted to talk about the miracle that changed your life, Kurt. 18 years ago, you were blessed with a miracle that not all of us get to experience. And we want to hear all about it. We want to hear about your life and what you're doing and learn a little bit more about Chloe and just have an honest conversation today. So welcome. Thank you for joining me. This means a lot to me. Kurt, if you want to, you were once a police officer, correct?
Yes. Thanks.
Okay.
I want to thank you, Kate, for having us on today and for allowing us to share. I always say it's the incredible journey that God has led us on since the birth of Chloe. You can say hi to everybody, Chloe.
Hi,
So,
Chloe.
so thanks again. In 2003, I was a city police officer. I was a police officer for 20 years. I actually served in Atlanta, Georgia, South Florida. Then I came back to Pittsburgh, where I'm from originally. I was a city police officer. And in 2003, my wife was pregnant with our second child, Chloe, and we were both 40 at the time. And during the pregnancy, we were kind of pressured to have prenatal tests. We were told during that time that we were high risk, which is not a good word, risk, to have a child with Down syndrome. So we refused the test, and we didn't have them, and we were pressured. And like I said, they kept telling us we're high risk, but we didn't. And in May 16, 2003, Chloe, how old are you now, Chloe? 18. So in May 16, 2003, our little Chloe was born. And like I said, we did not know she had Down syndrome. We didn't have the prenatal test. And when she entered this world, I remember she aspirated a little bit, and the doctor took her over and was working on her. And I kept saying, "Is my daughter okay?" We had a C-section. My wife had a C-section. Mm-hmm. And he just kept looking at me, and he didn't say anything. Then he walked over with his mask on, and he said, "Your daughter has characteristics of Down syndrome," almost in a very negative way and almost like a shocking way. And I remember I said, "Well, can I hold her?" And he goes, "Well, yes." And I said, "Well, bring her over to me." So he brought her over to me, and I held her, and I said, "She's perfect. There's nothing wrong with my daughter." And I just remember he had kind of a weird look on his face, but it was there. I just thought she wasn't really welcomed here like the other children are, and that's why they pushed those prenatal tests. So, fast forward a little bit, we brought Chloe home, and we got hooked into early intervention, and amazing people that worked for that program, and we were focused on her abilities, not her disabilities.
Yes.
Chloe's brother Nolan, my son, who just recently got married, was 4 at the time, and that was his sister. He loved his sister from the moment he saw her, the moment he held her to hospital. And he didn't see her Down syndrome. He was upset she couldn't play immediately, but other than that, it was his sister who he adores to this day. And so we were focused on her abilities. And as I've spoke to you before, I started connecting with other parents who had children with Down syndrome. And I was talking to ones who had the prenatal test, and I learned every single parent I spoke to, whether it was directly or in person, via the internet, via whatever, I found out that when they had the prenatal tests, every single one was basically just told to abort the child. In other words, the child was identified, they were targeted and terminated because they said they didn't belong here. So this deeply, especially as a police officer, disturbed me. My mission has always been to defend and protect, especially the most vulnerable. And here people are telling me that their own child, because they didn't meet the cultural mandate of perfection, which doesn't exist anyway, they were told to get rid of the child. So, I followed Jesus. I followed the Holy Spirit. He kept spurring me on and telling me, "You got to do something about this." And I thought, well, who am I? I'm just a dumb police officer. But I did change. I left my career, went back to school, got a degree in early intervention, began working in the field, and just began doing my best to educate parents on the beauty and the awesomeness of these kids like Chloe and all the good things they bring to this world. And as the past 18 years have gone by, it's absolutely incredible how God has led us and the things that He's opened, the doors He's opened for us, and the things He's enabled us to do because we've turned. I tell people, Kate, a lot that I had a plan for my life. I'm going to be a police officer in my life, become a lieutenant commander, retire, do this and that. And I always say, but God had another plan, and God's plan was the plan that we all should follow. And God's plan was to give me Chloe, and because of my police training, to defend and protect these precious individuals and make sure that they're welcome into the world and not, removed from the world. Is what was happening. It was prenatal genocide is what it was. So, go ahead. Sorry.
No, please don't apologize. So talk about what you're doing, all of the different efforts that you've been called in so many different directions. I mean, you have embrace and don't erase, but you just help everyone.
Well,
You're
I call
working so
myself
hard at this.
I saw a guy, it was years ago. He was somewhere down south. He had this term DADvocate. And I asked him if
Uh-huh.
I could use it. And that's what I call myself. I'm a DADvocate. I think, men and fathers need to be more involved in defending and protecting their children and defending and protecting the sanctity of life. I firmly believe in that. And I came up with the idea, embrace, don't erase Down syndrome, because people, they're erasing it based on faulty information they're given. So Chloe and I, early on, we began going to the state capitol and just meeting with legislators, Republicans and Democrats. This is not a political view. We just to show them the abilities of these kids and encourage them to invest in programs that would enable them to reach their potential. And during that time, once again, I know it was the Holy Spirit. I had this idea that we need a law in Pennsylvania that when a mother and a family gets a prenatal test, instead of being just told to abort, they need to be given factual, supportive information of all the good things and abilities that these children and individuals bring to society. So we basically wrote it down on a legal pad, started doing advocacy up at the Capitol. I had a few small circle of friends who helped me open some doors and promote this. And we came up with Governor Corbett was the governor at the time. He really had met with Chloe, loved her abilities, and we came up with the idea of the Down Syndrome Prenatal Education Act, which they dubbed Chloe's Law. So we went around promoting it and advocating for it. And in 2014, it was passed through the House, passed through the Senate in Pennsylvania, which anybody who lives in this state know that's a miracle in and of itself. And Chloe sat at the Capitol, and in 2014, next to Governor Corbett, signed her name on it. And it was along with a couple of her friends, Alex and Thomas, and it became Chloe's Law. It became the law. And that, Kate, honestly, that opened up a dialogue, I think, across Pennsylvania, across nationally, even globally, for people that were not aware of what I call a prenatal genocide against these kids. It got the information out. And since then, my one pastor says, as long as you're obedient and available, God will use you. Mm-hmm. So we've been obedient, we've been available. And because of that, as you showed in the beginning of your clip, we've been invited to the White House to stand next to the president for the March for Life. Chloe and I have spoken to the United Nations twice in front of global audiences because of the fact that Iceland had proudly proclaimed that they aborted all children with Down syndrome to cure Down syndrome. That's actually a quote from them. So we spoke at the United Nations against this. We've National Right to Life Conference, North Carolina Prayer Breakfast. We're blessed. We're speaking in West Virginia in October at their annual banquet. If you're in Pittsburgh here, we're actually going to be speaking at the Vision for Life, awesome organization we support, in October. Okay. You can share my information on your site, and we'd be happy to get that out. But it's been amazing. Like I said, Chloe's picture has been in Times Square 5 times on the big screen. She's become good friends with Cardinal Dolan up in New York City. We've been on news program, and I'm not bragging at all about it. It's all God's hand. I always say we're the instrument. He's the master craftsman. He's used us to promote the message, embrace, don't erase Down syndrome. And, and the more time that I've spent with Chloe and people like her, the more I realize what a just amazing gift now more than ever to our society, our toxic, divided society. I wrote an article once that Chloe has an extra chromosome, 21st chromosome. And I wrote that Adam and Eve had Down syndrome until the devil stole the extra chromosome, because she represents what we all should be striving for, which is unconditional love, purity. She'll accept you. She doesn't care if you live under a bridge or live in a mansion. She will accept you because she recognizes that as a human being, you're a gift. And that's how we all should see each other.
So Chloe, tell us about all these things that you've been doing. What would you like to tell people? Scoot it over a little bit more. Chloe has a chapter in this book, and that's go ahead. Tell us about your book.
Brilliant Souls.
Brilliant Souls, right.
And what's it about?
Family.
She gets a little shy on the camera now. She's great in person. That's why you got to come out and see us at the Vision for Life banquet. But there's a chapter, and this is the book actually that Chloe opened up. What do you write? What do you write in the book?
I sign it.
You sign it.
And what do you
Your autograph.
What's it say?
Love Chloe.
Love Chloe.
Oh.
She gave this book to the president, the vice president. She became friends with Mike Pence when he was vice president. I forgot to mention Chloe's picture with Vice President Mike Pence actually hung in the West Wing of the White House for several months.
Wow.
That's the first time a child with Down syndrome was on the gallery in the White House up there framed, and he sent that picture to Chloe after the last election and signed it, and so we have that as a family heirloom just to pass on. But it's amazing stuff. Like I said, I look back on it and I think it really shows the awesomeness of God, that when we follow hard after him, how it's not easy. I can't sit here today and say this has been an easy journey. We're always under attack because we're trying to shine light on darkness. So the devil knows that, but it's the best thing ever, because we know that what we're doing it's God's work, and it's, like I said, it's defending and protecting individuals. There's a verse in the Bible. Yeah. Hebrews 13:2 says some have entertained angels. And I believe that my daughter and people like her they're angelic in a lot of ways. They don't have evil or malice. They represent the best part of humanity, and they deserve to be defended, and they deserve to be protected, and they deserve to be, taken care of. And tell Kate, what's your favorite thing? What's your favorite song to sing? You just sang it this morning for somebody and sent it to them. What is it?
What?
What's your favorite song to sing?
Birthday.
Chloe loves to sing happy birthday. She sent a video to a friend of ours who's actually struggling right now with a health issue. And it's neat to watch. Like, she loves when somebody has a birthday. She just has to sing to them. Yes. And I started thinking it's really neat. Like, you can't have a birthday unless you were born. So Chloe, people like Chloe are not allowed to be born because the society is giving the false information. And here's Chloe here. She recognizes it's brilliance that birthdays are so important and they're so critical, because that shows that you're born. And it shows that you're celebrating each year of your life. So, like, if you ever want somebody to sing to you for your birthday, Chloe does it. She's all over Facebook. She's sang to the president, the vice president. Like I said, we've really, like I said, we've been blessed. One of my favorite memories, when we spoke at the United Nations, Chloe was giving one of her books to the ambassador from Russia, the ambassador from Saudi Arabia. And she was standing in between them talking, and right in the middle, while she was talking to him, she flashed a peace sign, which they caught on film. We have that on post on our website, but it's neat. It's like, here she is establishing world peace at the United Nations through all the different countries. And I believe she could. I believe, that they're a gift. I often kid that on Judgment Day, Chloe will have a mansion in heaven, and I'll be sweeping her driveway, which is my sweeping driveways in heaven. But I mean, I said, my one friend said she'll be in the easy pass lane and I'll be in the toll booth. So, but something I don't, or time, but in this hit me not that long ago. In 1973 in this country, we legalized killing our most innocent children through abortion. That was when we passed, legalization of abortion. But also in 1973, we passed the Endangered Species Law, which criminalize killing any animals that are in danger. Well, Chloe is a human species, and because of abortion and prenatal testing, she's actually endangered. Like I said, they've wiped people like Chloe off of certain countries, or it's 90% in other countries. So I've made the argument that, maybe they should be on the Endangered Species Act. When you legalize killing human beings and criminalize killing animals. I love animals. We have 2 dogs that we adore, but it says a lot about you as a society, and as prenatal testing advances, we should all be asking, who's next? What if we have a prenatal test for autism? What if we have one for ADHD or OCD or baldness or being short or, something else that the culture, that our misguided culture says is not acceptable? We all should be worried about that. So that's why this issue, Kate, is so important. It's number one, it's about human life. I always say our most precious national treasure is human life. There's no greater gift that God has given us, but it's also about stopping where a slippery slope into genocide of anybody who is deemed undesirable or not worthy to be here, when society is able to get rid of them because they don't meet the cultural mandate. So it's something that should terrify all of us, and it's something that we all should be working about to stop and to defend and protect these precious individuals.
Kurt, what can people do to help? What can people do to educate? What can pregnant moms do to learn more?
like I said, we had, if you're in the Pittsburgh area, I really encourage you to come to the Vision for Life banquet. Like I said, that's in October. It's October 14th. It's at Duquesne University.
Mhm.
We'll be talking a lot about ways you can get involved throughout this region as far as that. Also at the West Virginia banquet. But like I said, you're sharing my website, my contact information's there, my cell phone number's on there. Contact me. And just like I said, just share the information. I post a lot of articles. I write a lot of articles, and if you run into a couple that's expecting a child with Down syndrome, and I will tell you, Chloe's met with 3 different women who were expecting children with Down syndrome, were considering abortion, and all 3 she met with immediately changed their decision, had their babies. So it's just, we have to get that information out. We have to get the facts out. We have to let people see the faces of these individuals, and we also have to, as I said, what Chloe's Law did, it gets the reality out of what's happening, and people need to have discussions and conversations. And, I speak at churches. I'll speak anywhere. Wherever God sends me, I'll go. I was on EWTN in Alabama. I drove down one day, spoke the next morning, and drove back. Wherever God sends me, I'll go, because it's that important. There's no greater, mission than defending and protecting human life. So, just to be a voice, the Proverbs 31:8, which I have tattooed on my arm, says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves." If we as a society aren't doing that, then I don't care how rich you are monetarily, this or that, we're going to fail. And I think we're seeing that right now. When you disregard the sanctity of human life and even start messing with it and trying to do things to human life that are against God's laws and God's will, then bad things are going to happen. So, I just encourage people to speak up and to get involved. If you'd like Chloe and I to speak at your church or any events you're out there, we would love to come there and share our story and share our journey, because I think it shows how positive Down syndrome is, but also puts a face on how, God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. We lived in a city. We don't have money. We don't, we're not from fancy this or fancy that. We're just common people, which God has used throughout the Bible, who were given a mission, were given a purpose, given a calling, and we accepted it and have used it to advance this. It's an eternal thing. I tell people all the time, I don't have any money, but I'm the richest man in Pittsburgh. I have more treasure stored up in heaven than anybody around. So,
I think one question I'm feeling called to ask you is telling people about your life now with Chloe, and mentioning Chloe has special gifts that we don't. Like, even the story, and you guys will have to tune in and check out Kurt's website and all the links that he has in the videos. But there's one video and one story that,
sure,
you have a closer relationship, with the Lord, Chloe. You have access to information that, I think that's so neat.
You want me to share that real quick?
Yes.
Okay, so when I was a Pittsburgh police officer, I had left the force, but 3 of my good friends on the department back in 2009 were killed in an ambush in Pittsburgh. Most anybody from this area is familiar with it.
Right.
It was in Stanton Heights. It was a typical call, and then kind of a fight in the house, and all 3 of them were gunned down. Officer Maley, Officer Shulo, and then Eric was also killed there. And it was horrible. It was a horrible day in the police department. And so I was really good friends with Paul Shulo's parents. They lived on a beat that I used to patrol and used to walk. They used to give me soup in the wintertime and cookies, and his mom would always hug me on the avenue, Liberty Avenue. It was beautiful. They were really good friends. I remember Paul had a very, successful, high-paying job, but he was called to be a police officer. He came back to the city, became a police officer, and wanted to defend and protect in his city that he grew up in. And he was the first one that was killed going through that door on that fateful, horrible, horrendous day. And he's buried up at St. Mary's Cemetery right next to Children's Hospital. So when I take Chloe up there for appointments, I always stop and see Paul and, just pay my respects. And Chloe never met Paul. And when we first stopped there, his face is on his tombstone. It's weird. It looks right at Children's Hospital. So she started talking to him like he was right there. I'm sure he was. And she would give him a kiss, and she would say things. And you could tell she was having a conversation. Then I would stop down and see Paul's parents and tell them, that Chloe was up there. And I took pictures and video. Luckily, I captured the moments. And the one time we were up there, Chloe said, "Dad, I have to go talk to Max and Susie," and that's his parents. I said, "Okay, honey." So we left and we went down there after her appointment at Children's Hospital. And she goes, Max, I have to tell you something. And Susie was there and she called her husband and Chloe goes, I see Paul up in heaven and he's holding a baby. And the parents got real emotional, ready to cry. And I said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't want her to upset you. And the mother was like, no. She's like, here, honey, drink your water. The mother was like, she's like, oh my gosh, no, please, just go on. Grab your water right over there. She goes, go on and keep telling. So Chloe goes, I see Paul up in heaven. He's holding a baby. It's a baby boy. And then both parents started crying. And she goes, it's not just a baby boy. She goes, it's his brother. His name's David. And then both parents broke down. And then they went on to tell me that 40 some years earlier, they had miscarried a baby boy. David was one of the names they were thinking about. And only they knew that. And when Paul was killed on that fateful day, a horrific day in Pittsburgh, they said, at least he's in heaven with his brother. And no one else knew it. No. And here's Chloe sitting in their dining room telling them as she sees him up in heaven holding his brother. So there's no way that was a coincidence. There's no way that could be, whatever. Yeah, I tell that story at all my presentations. I often kid. I say, after Chloe told them that story, I said, my next question for Chloe was, what are the winning Powerball numbers? But God wouldn't give them to me because, it would ruin me. But she has insight. I always say she has a direct line. She has a 5-bar direct line to God that all of us should be striving to have, because she's not, like I said, she doesn't have malice. She doesn't have evil. You couldn't make Chloe hurt somebody. She's not capable of that. Right. She doesn't have that. I've seen that. I've never, as a police officer of 20 years, I never got a call where someone with Down syndrome was doing something bad. Never in my life. It doesn't happen. So once again, I'll be honest with you. I don't know what I did right to have a child like this, to have a daughter like this. I said, my son just got recently married to an awesome young lady, Haley Nolan, and she was the flower girl in the wedding and danced everybody off the floor all night as with her friend Justina. And joy, she's joy. She's light in the darkness. And like I said, she teaches us all lessons that we all should be learning as human beings about how we should treat each other, how we should treat the sanctity of life, and how we should be behaving as human beings down here. We learn a lot. If the world was filled with people like Chloe, all the problems we're facing today would go away. They would. You just need some good dance music, some pizza, chicken nuggets, and ice cream.
All set. Recipe for success, huh, Chloe?
Tell Kate your favorite type of ice cream.
Chocolate.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Yeah, when I see you, we'll have to go get a chocolate ice cream cone.
Yes. So, but like I said, please come out and see us. Join us at the Vision for Life banquet. We hope join us in West Virginia, and there's other things coming. We never know. Whatever doors are open, we go through.
Sure. Get in touch.
Yeah.
Get in touch with Kurt. Maybe you want to have he and Chloe come and talk with your group, whatever the case may be.
If you know a mother or a family is expecting a child with Down syndrome and they need some encouragement, they need some help connecting to early intervention. Like I said, that's an awesome program here in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. Let me know, and I'll give you the resources. There's so many good things. We have the Miracle League in the South Hills, a baseball league for kids like Chloe. There's Special Olympics. There's things. There's just tons of Center for Theater Arts that these kids can be engaged in. They said the focus is on their abilities, not their disability. Good. And I often tell people, if I want to see somebody who's really disabled and screwed up, all I got to do is go to the mirror, because I'm the disabled one. She's really not disabled. She's
got more gifts than we do.
She does, and they're pure, and they're gifts from they're eternal gifts, the type of gifts that we all should be striving to have. So,
well, what a pleasure, an absolute pleasure. I thank you, both of you, very much for being with me today, for being with all of us. I'm so glad that we get to share some information about this, to shed a light on this. And if you are a nonprofit or an entrepreneur or a company just starting, get in touch with me. I would love to be able to do something similar with you. So,
yeah, Kate's the best. So get in touch with her, and she can really help you, to reach your abilities as an organization, and also to keep it focused on what's good. That's you're a gem as far as that's concerned. You keep God at the core therefore, that's the number one thing to success in life, is always having that as a core. So we thank you again for having us on and
Pleasure.
allowing us to share our journey, amazing journey. So
Pleasure.
look forward to coming back again and sharing some more fun stuff.
Sounds great. All right. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thanks. God bless. Thank you.